Sha'ar Hagugilim, Gates of Reincarnation, which I will, Christopher Robert Neal, Juris Doctorate, call Jewish Shamanism, Soul Rectification. Chapter 1, on this day, August 1st, 2022, 12:09 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Chapter 1, 5 Levels of Soul. We begin what Chazal, note 3, an acronym for Chachamenu, Zicharonu, Li Voracha, our sages, their memory should be blessed. We begin with what Chazal have written, note 4, Berishish Rabbah 14:9, that the soul has 5 names. Note 5, that is, a single soul is comprised of 5 levels that have these names. Nefesh, my personal note, earth. Ruach, my personal note, fire. Neshama, my personal note, air. Chaya, my personal note, water. And Yachida, or Yashida, my personal note, aether, or ether. And note 6, translated, Yachida, or Yashida, means single, because on this level of soul, everything is unified in one extremely sublime reality. The next level down is called Chaya or Chaya, which means living, because it provides life for all the levels below it. This is followed by the level Neshima, from the word Neshima, which means breath, because like a breath, it is blown downward to create and maintain the next 2 levels of soul. Hence, the next level of soul is called Ruach, which means spirit. The final level, which comes to rest in the body, is called Nefesh, from the word Nofesh, which means rest. We begin with what Chazal have written, that the soul has 5 names. Their order from bottom to top is Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yachida. Undoubtedly, they are not called these by chance. However, know that the person himself is the spiritual element within the body. The body is only clothing for the person and is not the person himself. As it says, on the flesh of man do not anoint. Shemos 33:32, and as it is mentioned in the Zohar, Parashas Bar-Reshish, page 20b. As it is known, man unifies all 4 words of Abaya. Note 7. This stands for Atzilus, Bariya, Yetzira, and Asiya, emanation, creation, formation, and dawn, or done. The lower 4 levels of existence. The highest level is called Adam Kadmon, literally first man. Since the light of God is too sublime and intense for creation, God filters it through the Sephiros, which are the basis of all existence as we know it, just as there are 10 general Sephiros, Kesed, Chokmah, Bina, Chesed, Gevura, Teferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malkus. Likewise, does each Sephira have its own set of 10 Sephiros, which transform it into a world, so to speak. Kesser, as a group of 10 Sephiros, is called Adam Kadmon, Chokmah, Atzilus, Bena, Beria, Chesed through Yesod, Yetzirah, and Malkus, Asiya. Therefore, by necessity, sections from each of the four worlds must exist within him. Note 8. If this wasn't the case, then he would not be spiritually connected to these levels of reality and could not unify them. Each section being called one of the five names Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida or Yeshida, as we will explain. 2 of chapter 1, level by level. He does not acquire all of them at once, but rather he acquires each level based upon his merits. At first, he takes the lowest of them, all called Nefesh. After that, he is merit. After that, he merits more. He also takes Ruach, just as it is explained in many places in the Zohar, such as in Parashas Ve'eche, Parashas Teruma, and especially at the beginning of Parashas Mishpatim 94b, where it says, "Come and see." When a person is born, they give him a nefesh, etc. Footnote number 9. Everyone has all five levels of soul from birth, without which the light of God could not sustain us. What we do not have from birth is access to our higher level of soul, something gained only over time based upon merits. Having explained this, a short introduction regarding the discussion mentioned is necessary. The matter of nefesh, ruach, and neshama, etc., and haluka de Rabbanan. Note 10, literally rabbinical cloak, as and a literally rabbinical cloak, and a Kabbalistic reference to a garment of light rewarded to the righteous in the world to come. It is mentioned in the prayer just in advance of the blessing made when wearing on a thalis, are discussed at length in Sha'ar 4 of Sha'ar HaPesukim. See also Eitz Chaim Chelik 1, Sha'ar 23, chapter 1 and 2. On the verse, his mother would make him a small robe, etc. First Shmuel 2:19. It is also explained in Sha'ar 5 of Sha'ar HaMitzvos, Parashas Vayeki, in the laws of mourning. See over there. We will add something new. Know that all nifashos, the plural of nefesh, originate, this is note 12, know that all nefashos, note 12, the plural of nefesh, originate from the world of Asiya only. All rukus from the world of Yetzirah, and all neshamush, from the world of Bariya, note 13. Nowadays, the upper level of Chaya and Yachida are completely inaccessible and therefore usually ignored. The majority of people, however, do not access all five parts called Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, etc., just the section of Nefesh from Asiya. However, even this has many levels. Asiya itself is divided into five partzufim called Arif, Anpin, Aba the Imma, Zihir, Anpin the Nukhva. Note 14. The general system of Sephiros is 10: Geser, Chokmah, Bina, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. However, each of these Sephiros contain their own system of 10 Sephiros as well, so that there is a Kiser of Kiser, a Chokmah of Kiser, etc., all the way down to the Malchus of Kiser. The same is true for the rest of the Sephiros in the general system. As a system of 10 Sephiros, it is called a Parzuf, face, or an Olam, which means world. And if you have the book, which I have only in digital print, but I believe you can get it otherwise. I have it from Amazon.com. You may find it in a store in Israel or New York or somewhere else. Sha'ar Hagakulu. Continuing, see diagram 1. Before a person can merit to reach his Ruach, which is from the world of Yetzirah, he must already be complete with respect to all of the five Parzuvim of the Nefesh Asiya. Note 15. That is, he must he must have already rectified his Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yachida on the levels of Nefesh and Asiya. Part 3 of Chapter 1, Personal Rectification. Even though, as it is known, there are people whose Nefesh is from the Malchus of Asiya, and those whose Nefesh is from the Yesod of Asiya, etc. Note 16. Not only does a person's Nefesh come from the level of Asiya, it comes from one of the five levels within Asiya. Nevertheless, each person must rectify all aspects of the overall Asiya. Note 17. No matter which level within Asiya one's Nefesh comes from, he must still rectify all the other levels as well as his own within Asiya before being able to receive higher levels of soul. Only after this can he receive his Ruach from Yetzirah, since Yetzirah is greater than all of Asiya. Likewise, in order to reach his Neshama, which is from Bariya, he needs to rectify every level of his Ruach in all of Yetzirah. Then he can then receive his Neshama from Bariya. Hence, it is not sufficient to rectify only the particular level onto which the root of his soul latches. Rather, he must rectify all the levels as mentioned until he is fitting. Note 18, that is, he has rectified all the levels of Asiya. With respect to all of Asiya, after which he can achieve the Ruach of Yetzirah. The same applies for the rest of the worlds. Footnote 19. One cannot receive the next level of soul from a particular world until he has already rectified the entire world below it. This is the explanation. He should learn Torah and perform mitzvos with respect to all of Asiya. It is not enough to do so only with respect to the level to which the soul is attached. Footnote 20. Every aspect of Torah learning and every mitzvah corresponds to a different sephirah, are part of a sephirah. This is the level of fulfilling the Torah and the mitzvot. A way to do this is with Chabad, Chabad. Go to their website, which is chabad.org, chabad.org, and you will find the Chumash, Chumash, which is a daily Torah study. It takes you through parts of it, and there are explanations by the great Rashi, Rabbi Yitzhak, uh, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, from about 1,000 years ago. And you will also find the numbered mitzvos of Maimonides. So if you were to go daily, or as often as you can, but daily would be ideal, and read the Torah portion and read the mitzvah for that day, which sometimes repeats itself. There are 365 days in a year, but there are less mitzvahs to complete. The mitzvahs of Maimonides, Moses ben Maimon, of blessed memory, both, um, is has the various levels of the sephiros embedded in the mitzvahs as you learn them, and also the entire Torah and the readings of Rashi have them there as well. So to engage in the actual process of rectification, you can begin reading them. They're offered in English with a side of Hebrew at the with Hebrew next to it. You can choose to have it there or not. And as far as what you should do, wearing tefillin, wearing tzitzit, or any of those things, when you do it, it is up to your level and how far you've gone in doing so. Um, but get started one way or another, and then seek forgiveness. If for some reason you find out later you haven't been doing it in the ideal way, teshuva for us all who attempt to accomplish this. Continuing. Likewise, if a person sins and blemishes, footnote 21, the non performance of a positive mitzvah does not damage the spiritual world in the same manner that the performance of a sin does. In the case of the former, there is a lack of tikkun in the spiritual realm, but in the case of a sin, usually the result of doing something that is forbidden, usually the violation of a negative mitzvah, an actual blemishes occurs to which to that which already exists in the Sephiros a more severe consequence. Likewise, if a person sins and blemishes a particular place in Asiya, even though it is not the place to which his nephesh is attached, he must rectify it. Footnote 22. This is because, as has just been said, a person must rectify the entire level of Asiya, even those parts of it to which his soul root is not attached. However, if another nefesh did not perform a specific mitzvah from the world of Asiya, or sinned and caused a blemish in it, Zenith. My personal note, his source nefesh, for example, if I have the nefesh of my ancestor, Napoleon I Bonaparte, and reach a similar place as he in my yechida, I will have responsibility to improve upon both due to the potential of a negative action within that portion of yechida and to avoid his mistakes which came from that potential. That is, that this one is not obligated to rectify the missing mitzvah, or, however, if another nefesh did not perform a specific mitzvah from the world of Asiya or sinned and caused a blemish in it, this one is not obligated to rectify the missing mitzvah or the blemish from the sin of another, unless they are both from the same place, as will be explained later with the help of God. Footnotes 23 and 24. 23. All souls belong to one overall structure of souls, which was originally included in the first man, Adam HaRishon, before he sinned. Nevertheless, apparently, collective responsibility has its limitations. Note Footnote 24. However, though every soul has its own location in the overall structure of soul roots, each location is part of a family of souls that, due to their proximity to each other, do share a common responsibility to one another. Nevertheless, apparently, in such a case, collective responsibility is still limited somewhat. Or it is possible, note 25, footnote 25, Rev. Chaim Vital wrote Sha'ar HaGilgulim based upon the verbal teachings of his Rebbe, the Arizal. However, as he mentions, in some cases, he was not always clear about certain points that he heard, and in some cases even forgot what was revealed. And there is a tradition within the Ladino tradition of North Africa and beyond that says the Blessed One who is delivered a certain text from the great ones before is caused to remember and to forget at the will of God. Or it is possible that the name rectification only applies to the tikkun of a blemish that results from a sin and not to the performance of all of the 248 positive mitzvot. Footnote 26, that is, to fulfillment of any missing positive mitzvah. Or it is possible, and this is correct, and it can be explained with an analogy, someone who is from the Malkus of the Nukva of Asiya, called Nefesh of Asiya, must rectify all of the Malkius of the Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yeshida or Yechida of Asiya. Uh, Malkius, according to footnote 27, is the plural of Malkus. Someone who only rectifies the Malkus of Asiya, only has the Nefesh from the Nefesh of Asiya. Footnote 28, that is, the Malkus of Asiya, as mentioned above and repeated just after, this is the root of the soul of the person of the analogy. And my note, Tiferoth, uh, Malkuth is Asiya, and Asiya of Asiya is when you are about to ascend to Malkuth. Yesod of Yesod, Yetzirah up to Kether of Yesod, of Yetzirah, then Malkuth of Hod, and Netzach of Yesirah, rising simultaneously to Kether of Hod and Netzach of Yesirah before reaching the coveted Malkuth of Tifereth, of Bria, rising to Kether of Tifereth, of Bria, on to simultaneously reaching Malkuth of Geburah, and Chesed of Bria, to Kether of Geburah, and Chesed of Bria, on to Malkuth of Beneh, and Chokmah of Atzuluth, to Kether of Beneh, and Chokmah of Atzuluth, ascending to Malkuth of Kether of Atzuluth, to Kether of Atzuluth, which is Ein Sof Ur. Someone who only rectifies the Malkus of Asiya only has the nefesh from the nefesh of Asiya, someone who also rectifies the zna of Asiya will have the nefesh and ruach of Asiya. If he rectifies the imma of Asiya, he will have the niranan from Asiya. So Z quotation mark N footnote 29, the acronym of the level called Zihir Anpin, which corresponds to the level of Ruach. Note 30, Emma, that is, the level of Bina or Neshama. In our quotation mark in Nirnan, footnote, Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. Likewise, if one rectifies all 5 partzufim of Asiya, then he will have the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida of Asiya, all 5 of these levels, and all of the levels of the 5 of them. Note 32. In other words, by rectifying only the Malkus of Asiya, he acquires the 4 levels above it as well, before moving on to rectify the Malkus of the Ruach of Asiya, which after he gains all the levels above it as well, etc. This is the way it works for the person throughout the level of Asiya. Complete in all 3 divisions, which are Ibur, Yeneka, and Mochen, note 33. Literally, impregnation, nursing, and brains, terms that refer to 3 stages of Sephira development. See Sha'ad Ha-Pesukim, page 42, column 2. As mentioned with respect to the verse, his mother would make him a small robe, etc. 1 Shmuel 2:19. This is called the complete nefesh of Asiya, after which he merits the ruach from Yetzirah. Footnote 34, even though he actually only rectified the malkius of each level. Footnote 35, even though he only rectified the malkus of each level. Also, with respect to this level called Ruach, there are the 5 levels mentioned, and all of them are called the complete Ruach of Yetzirah. It is similar with respect to Nishmas, Beria, and likewise Chaya, Yechida, and as well. Now is not the time to elaborate on this. Footnote 36. This will, however, be discussed later. So, end of this part of Chapter 1, Jewish Shamanism, Rectification of the Soul, or Shar Hagogilim, The Gates of Reincarnation, Parts 1 through 4.